This week, we have a two-part challenge in celebration of Easter. First, invite your friends, neighbors, coworkers, anyone to church, and then fill out the form linked in the show notes so we can pray for them. And then second, donate $25 to one of the 3 ministries we've partnered with who are sharing the gospel. Check out the link in our show notes for details.
Hey, this is Joe at The Pour-Over.
And this is Zan at The Pour-Over.
Today, we're talking about tariffs and their effect on the market, 2 high-profile deportation cases, Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, and other top news for Monday, April 14th. Stay informed while remaining focused on Christ with The Pour-Over today.
Here's your quote of the day. Gather the riches of God's promises. No one can take away from you those texts from the Bible which you have learned by heart. Corrie ten Boom. Let's get started with some espresso shots.
The weekend brought more tariff whiplash. Friday, markets closed out a historically wild week on a high note. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ climbed, and the Dow jumped 619 points following news that President Trump was quote-unquote optimistic about a trade deal with China. China, apparently, didn't get the memo. On Saturday, it hiked its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to 125%, while noting it was done with tit-for-tat raises, calling anything above 125% a quote-unquote joke. Sunday, China's Commerce Ministry called on the U.S. to, quote, correct its mistakes and return to the right path of mutual respect, end quote. Meanwhile, Trump announced tariff exemptions for smartphones, computers, and other tech components, think hard drives, semiconductors, and memory chips. Big Tech exhaled a sigh of relief, which was cut short when officials suggested the reprieve would be short-lived. Here's a verse to consider whether you're negotiating with a foreign leader, a difficult coworker, or an overly tired toddler. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry for help. Psalm 34, verses 14 through 15.
Legal battles continue for 2 high-profile deportation cases. On Thursday, the Supreme Court ruled that the White House must help facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego and hold additional federal district court proceedings in his case. Abrego, a 29-year-old Salvadoran man, was living in Maryland with protected legal status when he was mistakenly deported to a notorious El Salvador prison and accused of having gang ties. Meanwhile, on Friday, an immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia grad student and pro-Palestinian activist who ICE detained last month, can be deported as a national security risk. The judge said Secretary of State Marco Rubio's determination that his presence could cause, quote, serious foreign policy consequences, end quote, was enough to meet deportation standards. Khalil's lawyers are expected to appeal, and a New Jersey federal judge has temporarily barred his removal. As immigration issues lead to contention, consider the radical inclusivity of the gospel. God's kingdom has no physical borders, and his mission is to win the worship of all nations. Isaiah 66:22-23 says, "For just as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, will remain before me, this is the Lord's declaration, so your offspring and your name will remain. All humanity will come to worship me from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, says the Lord."
The grass, cash, is looking greener at the Masters this year. Entering the final day in Augusta, Georgia, Rory McIlroy was in pole position. The Northern Irishman kept it interesting, topping 3-time second-place finisher Justin Rose in a sudden death playoff to complete a career Grand Slam, winning each of the 4 major championships: Masters, PGA, US Open, and British Open. In addition to the iconic green blazer, McIlroy got a hefty purse. Saturday, Augusta unveiled that winnings will total $21 million, a $1 million increase from last year. McIlroy will take home a crisp $4.2 million. On the court, The NBA season ended for 10 teams yesterday, while 20 others are driving into the postseason. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Boston Celtics, who are the reigning champs, and Cleveland Cavaliers are favored to nab the Larry O'Brien Trophy this June. Following a champion can be a thrilling experience, but their run always ends. Eventually, your GOAT will be unseated by the next rising sports star. But God's glory will never be challenged, and it never ends. Jesus is the center of a glory powerful enough to light the new heavens and new earth, forever. Revelation 21:23 says, "The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, because the glory of God illuminates it, and its lamp is the Lamb."
So I've tried greens powders before, and let's just say I've had more enjoyable experiences accidentally getting sand in my mouth at the beach. But Field of Greens, I was shocked. No grainy texture, no grassy aftertaste, just a smooth, actually tasty drink. Now I drink Field of Greens daily, and I get 2 servings of fruits and veggies without even noticing. No weird extracts, no added sugar, just real food that supports energy, digestion, and metabolism. Plus, Field of Greens is packed with the antioxidants, prebiotics, and fiber I'd get from a fruit and veggie-packed salad, but without the endless chopping. Basically, I've hacked nutrition in a way that I actually enjoy. Check out fieldofgreens.com and get 20% off your first order with code TPO20.
In other brews, here's a rapid round of updates. Tragedy struck northeastern Ukraine on Palm Sunday morning when 2 Russian ballistic missiles hit the bustling city center of Sumy, killing at least 34, including 2 children, and injuring 117. The attack comes on the heels of U.S. diplomats' peace-planning meeting with Russian President Putin on Friday. Zelensky called for a, quote, tough response from other nations to Russia's, quote, deranged aggression.
Police arrested a 38-year-old man suspected of setting fire to the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. Governor Josh Shapiro said police evacuated him and his family around 2 a.m. Sunday morning while firefighters extinguished the flames. No one was injured, but part of the home sustained major damage. The suspect faces charges of attempted murder, terrorism, and aggravated arson.
An American missionary and church planner in South Africa was kidnapped mid-sermon Thursday. Pastor Josh Sullivan was leading a prayer meeting at Fellowship Baptist Church when 4 armed, masked men stormed in, stole 2 phones, and abducted Sullivan. Authorities suspect a ransom motive. Kidnappings by criminal gangs demanding large ransoms have been rising in South Africa in recent years.
Lady Gaga opened Coachella 2025, the annual California Music and Arts Festival, with a 2-hour performance Friday that received mixed reviews. Fans called it iconic, while critics call it, quote, unsettling and satanic. The first of the festival's 2 weekends also saw surprise appearances by Queen's Sir Brian May, performing with Benson Boone, and Senator Bernie Sanders, talking politics with young folk.
Beijing residents were told to stay inside or risk becoming human kites. Winds up to 93 miles per hour hit northern China this weekend, toppling trees, canceling over 800 flights, and shutting down trains, parks, and historic sites. Officials warned people under 50 kilograms, or 110 pounds for us Americans, could be, quote, easily blown away, and advised all residents to avoid non-essential travel.
That's all we have for today. Thanks so much for listening, TPO fam. If you're listening on the Apple Podcasts app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow and hit the notification bell to never miss a new episode. We're grateful for your support. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Running a church in 2025 means reaching people beyond Sunday morning, and Subsplash makes that easier than ever. From mobile apps and websites to giving, media, and live streaming, Subsplash gives you everything you need to connect with your community every day of the week. And it works. Churches on Subsplash see 10% more donations, 50% more media plays, and 3 times more app users. Join over 20,000 churches using Subsplash to grow and engage their communities with gospel-centered content. Check out subsplash.com/TPO to learn more.